What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Chris and Cherie Gio here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil. There were some interesting things that happened at Burning Man, so we wanted to take a look at the Burning Man ritual. In this video, for the first section for YouTube, we'll be getting into what happened at Burning Man. And then on the Patreon section, patreon.com/bdvtribe, we'll be getting into the more esoteric ideas behind Burning Man, where the ritual actually started from. I want to explore the official philosophy behind the music festival and the burning of the effigy of the man. Of course, there's a movie, The Wicker Man, as well, that's kind of outlined some of this. And then we're going to go all the way back to ancient Rome, too, and find out where this human sacrificial fire festival type of thing first originated. So we have a jam-packed show for you. But it all started as I was watching these climate protesters, which, I'm not going to give my opinion on there. You take it for what it's worth. But I just don't think people should be blocking the highways when it comes to protesting. Protest, you've got your free speech, that's fine, but don't inconvenience people. However, in this particular case, the irony that I found is that all these people were blocked up for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, and I'll play it here for you in the background as I'm talking. And the police finally came through and just bulldozed these protesters out of the way. The reason they're protesting is because this happens out in the middle of the desert, and they always leave a bunch of litter and stuff like that after the festival. But it's a festival that's been going on for 25, 27 years, something like that. But they had backed people up for blocks and blocks. I mean, for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. I don't know if this particular video will show the traffic or not, but the traffic was, when you see the shot, I think it's here in the beginning, you can see the traffic going all the way back to the back, into the mountains, everything like that. A friend of mine called me and he said, hey, I know one of the event coordinators, and they've got a huge RV. You guys are welcome to go down there. I want to introduce you to them because I want to get you hooked up with them so you can do some site transits out there and, all that stuff. And this year I just had a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, it would have been great.
I had a bad feeling and I was like, nah, I don't really want to do it. I love music festivals, so I just want to put my bias out there. I love music festivals. However, I also see beyond the veil, and I've never resonated with Burning Man for a reason. And lo and behold, what actually happened is Burning Man had one of the worst floods that we've ever had, and people were stranded there, and they're stranded even to this day. They're now finally getting out of there, and so these environmental climate protesters are probably sitting back and going, well, we told you, we told you, we told you. But after you get through the surface of what's going on, we are left with two ideas. Why are they doing these rituals? What do these rituals mean? What's the official story behind the ritual? And what's the backstory? Let's look at both sides and find out, if anything, what does it mean that the effigy of the Burning Man was actually put out with water this year? I found that to be a reason why we should go ahead and do a show on it. So yeah, let's get into it. The sky so far away tonight, but I can't lose this one, get a pride of a falling night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me, where did we go so wrong?
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be getting into some pretty interesting content here tonight. Burning Man, of course, is the topic. There was also another festival called the Fire Festival, which kind of went up in smoke, and that was something that happened a few years ago, so I think it might be interesting to go ahead and touch upon that. But what I'm really getting at here is the importance of the Burning Man ritual itself and the floods that came down. Can you take us away for just a moment?
Yeah, definitely. We've seen music festivals. I mean, it's almost like a running joke. Like music festivals tend to turn out one of two ways. Either one, they turn out to be, like normal. There's a lot of hedonism. There's a lot of just free spirited people having a great time. There's a lot of people that I know that have epic stories from places like Burning Man or festivals.
Well,
What's Tomorrowland in Europe
yeah, I've
and things
always
like
been a
that.
big
A
festival person. I love the
huge music
energy. I
festival
love the
person.
vibe. I love the
Yeah,
music.
yeah.
What I don't like about Burning Man is this burning of this effigy
The
here.
burning of the effigy.
And that always rubbed me the wrong way. And it's funny because when my friend said, "Hey, why don't you go to Burning Man with some friends of mine?" I said the first thing I said is, "I don't want to get covered in sand. You know,
I
it's
don't
not
want to stand in
fun
my ass.
at a music festival
Yeah.
covered in sand." But the burning of the effigy is what's really interesting. And as we said before, there were environmental climate protesters trying to stop people from going. And now I think in hindsight, those people are saying, "Hey, I am glad that I wish we hadn't gone there, because it was flooded for days. People had to ration everything, and that's now the highway back home. And this is, I think, yesterday or the day before, so it's pretty recent. But they finally cleared everything out to where they can actually get people out of there. But there was so much mud, so much everything. I don't even think they were able to do the burning of the effigy the way that they normally do.
It was too
Now,
wet.
an
Yeah.
interesting thing that you pointed out is that contrary to other festivals like that Astroworld Festival,
Mm-hmm.
everybody kind of came together.
Mm-hmm.
And there were no riots, there was no violence, there was scarcity in terms of supplies and things like that because people go out there with their own supplies. You go out there with your
Mm-hmm.
own water, your own everything. There's, money's not a thing there. You
Right.
barter for whatever you need. Um, you take your own transportation, your own shelter, all of that. And people actually came together to
Mm-hmm.
help each other instead of big riots and people fighting and what you would expect from normal society. And there was a picture of Chris Rock there, who was there and was getting a ride out of there when all of this went down. So it's a festival that's gone on for years and years and years, and I don't want anybody to think that we are saying anything bad about music festivals at all because I love them personally.
Mm. Yeah.
However, in this particular case, despite all that, there's some strangeness going on.
There is definitely some strangeness going on with this. If you look at their timeline, it does appear that, paganism is a way of life for a lot of people still. I mean, even in 2023, this is 500 years after, the persecution of paganism was really, really, really strong. And at one point in time, the bias against paganism by the Catholic Church was so strong that, I mean, I'll get into the history in just a little bit, but as far as this was concerned, this was very, very rare. I've never seen anything happen like this before, where you've got a music festival that got flooded. I mean, they're comparing it to, say, the Fire Festival, for instance. It You have the same exact situation where there's very little resources, everything's flooded out, a big storm comes, and people are unprepared. And it turns out that in this situation, people weren't stealing mattresses from each other and running off. People weren't stealing each other's stuff. People weren't getting into fist fights over a bottle of water, like they were at the fire festival. So what made this one different than the others? And the thing, I think that there's a few key differences here. Number one, I've never heard of Burning Man being connected to any cult of personality whatsoever. I've never heard of, I didn't even know Chris Rock was going to be there. Nobody knew Chris Rock was going to be there. You don't hear celebrities bragging about, oh, I'm going to Burning Man and da da da. It wasn't like the Fire Festival. The Fire Festival was the opposite of that, where it was all talk,
Well,
no
hold on, hold on.
action.
You're getting
Yeah,
too
okay.
far ahead
I'm
of
getting too
yourself.
far ahead. Okay, sorry. But when it's based upon principles that any decent human being, I mean, would think of course, I think it's going to be a lot different of a philosophy when things go wrong.
What I find interesting is in the background here, we've got the Tower of Babel.
Mm-hmm.
We've got pyramids. We've got, of course, the Burning Man. As somebody pointed out in the chat, it's very, very much like the cremation of care ceremony that takes place in Bohemian Grove. So there's that aspect of it as
Mm-hmm.
well, which is why I think I never really vibed with it very much. Um, but the way the waters came down, I think it's important to, I think, pick apart, first of all, what their philosophy is. Pick apart as well what the history of the philosophy of the burning of the effigy means, and what does it mean that the water came down and basically flooded everything. So, if we turn to this page here, the importance of the fire ritual. Fire is the very heart and essence of all life. It's more phenomenon than substance that is revealed, seen, and touched in many ways of ritual and risk. It is the primordial energy of the divine manifestation in matter, and we're all part of that primordial ingredient. Dancing with fire has always been a ritual for me. I get this is the perspective of the either the blogger. I think about the blogger, but I think this kind of echoes the philosophy of the guy who created the Burning Man Festival to begin with. And then fire burns in each and every one of us. We're all united by fire in our spirit and our bloods and our hearts. The element of fire has great power to forge will and determination. I'm drawn to fire to stand as close as humanly possible to the heat, to the danger. I warm not only my physical being, but my spiritual self. Fire beckons to be released. Fire yearns to come alive. Capturing a flame from the sun. In these days of every instant, everything, and egos thinking that we can control all of it, utilizing a magnifying glass and focusing on the sun's rays to light a fire is a simple way to slow down. Holding the magnifying glass allows the sun's rays a small bright dot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, in essence, the official explanation for the fire rituals go back to our ancient times, where people would dance around fires. We've been doing it since the beginning of time, taking
Mm-hmm.
magic mushrooms and psychedelics and dancing around to repetitive music in the jungle, which is exactly what's going on here in the desert. According to the official ritual by Burning Man, what they're doing is they're reigniting hope. They're reigniting the fuel
Mm-hmm.
for the human spirit, reigniting the human spirit itself. And so it's a beautiful, wonderful celebration. However, there's still an effigy of a man that's being burned, which I mean, you can think about it esoterically. You know, you've
Mm-hmm.
got the fire. In my experiences, I've stepped into the fire, but stepping into the fire isn't necessarily a positive thing. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it ultimately results in a positive thing because you step into the fire, you test yourself, you face your darkness, you do all that, and you come out stronger and better and all of that, but it's not really a celebratory kind of thing. It's more of a warrior kind of thing of I'm going to step into the fire here. And so if we look at that perspective by itself, and then we'll get into the more Christian-y, pagan Catholic church type stuff here in a second, because I want to look at both sides of the coin here. When you look at this from this perspective, what does the rain coming down symbolize? Does it symbolize that humanity is not going to have any fire this year? That things are going to come down and be worse than they've ever been? That the human spirit has been crushed? Or maybe even we have made the mistake of offending nature itself in the way that we completely disregarded and discarded our own sovereignty and our own power, and all of 2020, 2021, we let, the whole world just get out of our hands, and everybody just acquiesced to the demands of the tyrants, therefore completely abandoning all human spirit and causing even the best of us to be callous and even cynical at times when looking at humanity. Or does it mean that Mother Nature, the universe, Earth, all of that is now coming in and saying, no more burning festivals, no more fire festivals. You
Yeah.
don't need that anymore. The fire is now within you. What do you
Yes.
think about that?
I think I think that you're absolutely correct. And if you look into just the burning of anything that looks like a person is an effigy. And the tradition of burning effigies, is it's even if you look up in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, hang slash burn in effigy, to publicly hang and burn a large doll that looks like someone that is hated, someone that you hate, someone that you despise. That's the only reason why you do this. A model or other object that represents someone, especially of a hated person, that is hanged or burned in a public place. I think it could be that what they're thinking is there's in every revolution, in every revolution, there's always sacrifice, and maybe Burning Man, from what I'm getting from their philosophies, the way they structure their sentences and everything, it seems like they lean more towards communism. They also lean more towards an idea of, um, if we have to break a few eggs to make an omelet, we're going to break a few eggs.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when you look at the philosophies of Burning Man, it's very different from most music festivals. Most music festivals, you go up to a stand, you pay $5, which I think is ridiculous, but you pay $5, you get a bottle of water.
Mm-hmm.
There's regular commerce that goes on. Here, everybody's encouraged to barter with one
Mm-hmm.
another. And it's actually, yeah, it's kind of a communistic kind of event where there's no money and people barter. Now, a small group of people like this, and small, I mean, compared to the size of the world, because there's about 70,000 people that went and got stuck out in these floods, they seem to be able to live in harmony with each other for these few days. And they seem to be able to ration their resources, allocate their resources. And is that indicative of mankind's spirit? Is that indicative of where mankind can be? Can we share with each other? Can we take care of each other? When there's a limited amount of resources, can we allocate them to those who don't need them? Or is this just a small group of people? And again, I use the term small compared to the population of the world, who are just of that mindset of being able to share with one another. What's your take on that?
I think that like attracts like, and if like, once again, making the comparison to the fire festival, if you're the kind of person that's all about the bling, you're all about the
Well, we haven't talked about the fire festival
okay,
yet, so we can't make a comparison until we talk about the fire festival.
all right. So let me just put it this way then. When people are in a situation like that, their true colors shine through. And everyone's true colors shine through in those. When things get tough, the true colors come out. But seeing as how an effigy is something you hate or have contempt for, and it's also a burning ceremony is a transformative ritual that traditionally performed, listen, as a way of releasing something that no longer serves you. It could be, and I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt here, that the Burning Man thing was about burning culture. Just like Terrence McKenna used to say, culture's not your friend. It's not here to help you. It's here to insult you. It's here to insult your intelligence. It's here to make you feel like you're just one of a billion of people that are just like you, and that you have no individuality. And it's about a celebration of that individuality and burning the cultural man.
Now,
I've always wondered if that was what it was about.
we can contrast that with the fire festival. The fire festival was another disaster. And actually, I'm very happy to see how Burning Man turned out. Not the flooding, but the way that people came together to make it through these tough times. But the fire festival was the complete opposite of what Burning Man is. And that's spelled Fyre, and that's in 2017. This was a fraudulent luxury music festival founded by con artist Billy McFarland and rapper Ja Rule. It was created with the intent of promoting the company's Fire app for booking music talent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So in a nutshell, what happened in 2017 is this guy decided that he was going to throw this huge party on an island. And when people were going to get there, they were going to get, there were going to be celebrities like Kendall Jenner, Bella Hadid, Haley Baldwin, Emily Ratajkowski, several others. And when people flew all the way out there, they flew from Miami out to this island in the Bahamas. There was nothing there. They didn't have tents. They were serving cheese sandwiches. There were no artists, there were no performers, there was nothing like that. The guy wound up going to jail over it. Go ahead.
Correction, they did have tents, but they you know what they look
Oh, well,
like? They
they
look
had.
like the tents in District 9.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like concentration
Yeah,
camp type of
yeah, they
stuff.
did. And people were paying thousands and thousands of dollars for them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the tents look like. And when they got there, they were soaking wet. There was a big hurricane that came by like 2 days prior to it, and people were stranded on this island for days, several days until they can get back.
Mm-hmm.
And they had no food, they had no water, they had nothing like that. And it turned into bedlam. It
Mm-hmm.
really like I was watching videos of this, and they had everybody's luggage, and they were just like throwing all the luggage all over the place.
Uh-huh.
People were, I mean,
It was like the Hunger Games.
it looked like a protest from 2016. Let me just put it like that. It
Or
looked like a peaceful but fiery protest, a
peaceful-
fiery but peaceful
It looked like
protest.
a combination of that and the Hunger Games.
Yes.
Like when they're trying to like grab their luggage and it's not even theirs and they
Yeah.
know it, but they're just grabbing whatever they can.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because if we look at the two different energies here for a second, you've got Burning Man, which seems to be love and light for all intents and purposes. You know, I've never been, and I don't know, but when you look at the fire festival versus, and they both have to do with fire. So that's an interesting correlation there. But you've got the fire festival, which was all about luxury, materialism, celebrities. You know, they've got a bunch of Instagram models to do photo shoots in the Bahamas about how awesome this event's going to be, all this.
Yeah.
That brought out the worst of the human spirit, whereas Burning Man seems to have brought out the best of the human spirit. But then we still have the one element, and that is nature itself coming down and saying, no, we're not going to burn an effigy this time around.
Yeah.
So we're still trying to figure out what that means.
I-
So now you can make your comparisons between Fire Festival,
Okay.
please.
I think that the burning an effigy of anybody is, I mean, I don't care who it is at this point. We should have outgrown that by now. In colonial times, they used to burn an effigy, King George, or they'd burn an effigy the local British protectorate that would be running things in their particular colony, and they didn't want to be a colony of Britain anymore. This was when revolution first started becoming a thing in the early 1700s. And by 1776, as you all know, or hopefully you know, we took a test the other day, a civics test, and we both passed with flying colors. But the fact of the matter is, part of that was the fact that we didn't want our government to feel like they had the right to use us as cannon fodder in their wars ever again, and that's part of the reason why. It's been extremely rare that we've had mandatory military conscription. If you're going to fight for this country, we want people that want to fight for this country, not people that were forced to fight for this country. And in these May Day celebrations, the Beltane
Well, can I jump in
celebrations.
for a second?
Oh, go
This
ahead.
is how the Fire Festival was promoted.
It was
with
promoted like that.
Instagram models and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah,
And then once
selfish.
people got there, it was total chaos.
Nothing was there.
Yeah, nothing was there.
Yeah.
And so that contrast there, I think if we look at it energetically,
Oh yeah.
there's something to be said about it. This was the food that they received here. Whereas in Burning Man, everybody again seemed to be sharing everything they had.
Like, okay.
Some people stayed in their RVs. Other people were running around and playing in the
mud.
In the mud.
Yeah. And that's a very good way of describing humanity as a whole. And we'll get into this later, but I think that's part of the reason why we are headed towards a confrontation that's going to last a while in this country, because we've got two types of people: those that don't want to make things better. They don't want to fight to make things better. They just want to fight. Period. Then you've got the ones that want to fight to make things better, and it takes whatever it takes. It takes whatever it takes.
It takes whatever it takes
In order to get our country back and to get a free country back.
Look, there's the effigy going down.
I think all this
And
happening,
everybody being stranded there like that, that's so sad.
yeah,
But at the same time, it looks like people are still having fun.
it was an opportunity. You know, when you know that you've got good people surrounding you, when something bad happens, they see opportunities where others just see nothing but disaster, nothing but doom and gloom, and oh, it's all over. We're all going to die out here in the desert.
We've been looking into, we got flagged on the last video for this, but we've been looking into Disease X and how they seem to be setting up every single puzzle piece for, or every single chess piece, I should say, for whatever is coming up. And it's scary because you've got Disease X, you've got people calling for mandates again, you've got Biden's wife who just tested positive for you know what. On the other day, and it just might be the time of year, but YouTube was showing me video after video after video about 9/11. United Airlines called off all their planes for the entire day, like 2 days ago. There's something brewing in this matrix.
I'm starting to get these same feelings that I got around October, September, October of 2019. I started to get these, I get waking visions. I rarely ever dream. It's weird, but I do have these like waking visions of flashes. It's like pictures in my mind. And I somehow I told, and I remember telling some of our friends, and they can vouch for this. I said something really big is coming, and I don't know if it's going to be a real threat or if it's going to be something that's hyped up, but the world is going to shut down as if it is, and it's going to be really, really bad. And it was the whole reason why we wanted to get out of Washington, because for some reason I knew it was that state was going to be a hot spot for basically being locked in your home. And
Well, I'll tell you why.
yeah, go ahead.
It's because that Seattle port is where everything comes
Where
in from.
everything started.
And
Yep.
so that's China's port. China owns it. And as we said before, there were biolabs, illegal biolabs found
Mm-hmm.
in
They
California.
found more. Yeah.
There's some co-op biolabs. I mean, they're
Mhm.
working on something, no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
And they're priming the population again for whatever it is that is coming. And it looks like they're going to throw everything at us because we're looking at indictments, we're looking at show trials broadcast
Mm-hmm.
on TV. We're looking at, I mean, they're talking about the 14th Amendment and how they're going to go after Trump for it because they're really deathly afraid of this guy. So if we look at 2020 and what happened in 2020, whether you know, believe whatever you believe, it doesn't really matter. Something was seriously, seriously wrong. They're looking at J6. You know, another thing that they did, and this is what's scary the most here, is that they just found the Proud Boys guilty and gave them like 20 plus years. And the main guy, Enrique Torres or whatever his name is, they were calling him a white supremacist, remember? And this
I
guy's like
remember
as
he's
Latin as can come.
as brown as
And yeah, and they gave him 22 years and he wasn't even there. I was watching the trial earlier today, the opening arguments for Chesebro's trial and Sidney Powell's trial. And what they're saying is that they want to separate the cases because there's different elements to this conspiracy. And then the prosecutor came in and he said, well, under Georgia law, there's a broad definition of RICO. And the defense attorney said, well, if you look at the law as broadly as it is, that means millions. If the crime was trying to get Trump into office in 2020, then that means millions and millions and millions of people are culpable in this quote unquote scheme to get Trump in office in 2020. And it's funny because this guy, Enrique, wasn't even in January 6th. He wasn't there. And he still got 22 years for orchestrating the quote unquote insurrection. And so I'm seeing all these different things. I'm seeing another pandemic on the way. I'm seeing upheaval. I'm seeing uprisal. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff going on that's really, really, really alarming. So that brings me to Life, of course, because protecting your immune system is the most important thing, especially if there's another pandemic coming up the pike. Dr. John Campbell was talking about CBD and how it works with Ebola. how it works with Zika virus, how
Oh,
it works with the zombie virus that we saw before that Biden's wife just tested positive for.
antiviral properties
It's
are
got, yeah, all
incredible.
kinds of stuff, high purity CBD. I won't get too much into it because we talked about it on the last show. But I will say this, we still have the buy one, get one free coupon going because we're noticing people are still using it even yesterday. And we turned it off yesterday and we had like 35 people write us within an hour
Oh,
saying,
yes,
hey,
turn it
please
back
turn the coupon
on.
back on. So we're going to keep it going until the end of the week.
Yeah.
But if you go to the ialife.com, ayalife.com, put 246810 single bottles in your cart, and then put the coupon code BTV Tribe at checkout, which is right down here in this little box here. You will get buy one, get one free. But you've got to put 246810 multiples of 2 in order for the coupon code to apply. And that's important because, you know, we've got all these different threats all around us, legal threats and all kinds of stuff. But what the average person out there is going to be faced with, in my opinion, is they're going to be faced with another pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been working on what they've been working on. I'm trying to pick my words really carefully, but they've been working on what they've been working on to make it 80% effective, 80% kill rates. And according to the National Institute of Health, the paper that John Campbell was going over, um, this is the only prophylactic that you can use. And as he quoted, if people in that laboratory or in the area, the city where that laboratory was there, I'm paraphrasing what he said and trying not to use a certain word, if they had been using CBD, the entire pandemic could have been prevented, at least on paper. You know, people wouldn't have gotten sick from it. So whatever's coming up the pike, definitely make sure to be protected because the National Institute of Health is looking into this. And also, the new news is that Biden is talking about making it a Schedule 3.
That is scary as hell
That is.
because
Do you know why? Because that means only doctors and pharmacy companies will be
you
able
will not be
to,
able to get it online.
yeah,
Yeah. It'll be just as hard to get online
they're trying
as
to shut down the CBD
Vicodin.
industry
Yeah.
by turning cannabis into a Schedule 3 and making
Yeah.
it to where only doctors can prescribe it.
And on top of that, I think that they're getting ready to retroactively start enforcing new laws. Let's say, for instance, they make something illegal that, or put it in a schedule that it wasn't
No. I don't
previously.
think they're going to
You don't think they're
retroactively.
retroactively going to do anything?
No.
Even considering, I mean, and getting back to the
No, they're not going to retroactively do anything. So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, forgive me for being redundant, but I just wanted to cut it here for our Patreons. So, on the other side, when we come back, I want to get into the esoteric ideas of Burning Man, burning the effigy, the cremation of care, all that stuff that we're going to get into beyond the veil. So, let's get into it. I'm going to run another rejoiner here so we can cut it here. If you're watching live on YouTube, stay tuned. If you're watching on the archive, go to patreon.com/BTV Tribe. And if you're on Patreon, thank you very much for your support. We will be right back.